a multiplayer space trading and combat simulation game being developed and published by Cloud Imperium Games for Microsoft Windows. That's what you're going to find for Star Citizen on Wikipedia. In reality, it's much more than that. Welcome to Lobby Zero's Deep Dive. Today, we're talking about Star Citizen. Heard of it? If you haven't, you're probably in the majority. That's a good thing. Why? Because your mind is about to be blown. So sit back, grab a drink, and let's dive deep. On September 26, 1990, a game called Wing Commander was released for the MS-DOS. The game put you in the role of a space dogfighter. It was an incredibly ambitious project and became one of the best sellers of its time. The person piloting this ambition was an up-and-coming game developer by the name of Chris Roberts. Roberts had a vision for a completely virtual galaxy, filled with bustling traffic and dynamic weather systems. But no game back then could possibly run at such a scale. Roberts would go on to make several Wing Commander sequels, each entry being significant in itself, but nowhere near as monumental as the first one. Until Freelancer was announced in early 2000. This game promised a full-fledged economy system, multiple side quests, and dynamic planets. Roberts was finally making his dream game, or so it seemed. By its eventual release in 2003, Freelancer was already way less than what it had promised. Budget cuts and schedule delays meant dynamic worlds would be removed. The game didn't live up to the hype, with critics calling it out for its lack of variety and forgettable characters. It all seemed lost for Roberts, who now put his ideas into other creative outlets, like television and film production. But Roberts wasn't to accept defeat that easy. He established his own gaming company, Cloud Imperium Games. The company soon created a Kickstarter campaign to fund for a new game that would finally build upon Roberts' original vision. This game would be called Star Citizen. The game would feature fully realized galaxies with dynamic planets having individual weather systems, skyscrapers, and functioning vehicles with their own traffic movements. To say that this game was ambitious was an understatement. In under a year, the game had surpassed its initial goals to accumulate $15 million in crowdfunding. At this point, they shifted to their own website, where the game would go on to raise more than $300 million in crowdfunding alone, with more money coming in through private investors. This was bigger than the budget for most AAA games, like GTA 5 at $265 million or Cyberpunk at $316 million. However, the game has been in production for just over a decade now, and still no foreseeable release date to justify the insane crowdfunding it has gathered. The Star Citizen project consists of a few different parts that provide the player with a range of gameplay experiences. Squadron 42 is a single-player, narrative-driven space adventure game that acts as a standalone piece focusing on story and cinematic gameplay, taking place in the Star Citizen universe. Now the cast for Squadron 42 is something to talk about. Mark Hamill, Gillian Anderson, Gary Oldman, Liam Cunningham, and last but not least, Henry Cavill as well. At least the cast justifies all that money, to a degree. Now with that kind of star power, it would be safe to assume Squadron 42 cannot drop the ball on the story it has to tell. Arena Commander is a PvP, PvE, multiplayer, and single-player game module, consisting of multiple space combat and racing modes. It's all about you, your favorite spaceships, and all the butt-kicking you can do with them. Star Marine, on the other hand, is a round-based, multiplayer infantry combat game, with different game modes such as Elimination and Last Stand. It's going to come down to what you and your team can do on ground with your decked-out loadouts. Finally, we have the Persistent Universe, the MMO portion of the game. This is the game the Star Citizen is really known for. It's an ever-evolving, in-development universe initially referred to as Crusader. It combines the gameplay aspects of the Hangar, Arena Commander, and Star Marine modules into a single multiplayer platform. Players can freely navigate around and on the surface of 4 planets, 9 moons, a planetoid, and a currently untraversable gas giant. After customizing your avatar, you spawn at a space station on one of the available planets. From here, players are free to explore. They can engage in trading, bounty hunting, mining, or take up missions. Just like No Man's Sky, the planets in the game are procedurally generated, with distinct biomes and points of interest. These planets so far are incredibly detailed and expansive, each with its own dynamic atmosphere and environments. This freedom of experience is at the core of Star Citizen and its appeal. Combat. As any good space simulator must have, the game features space combat. There are several modes like Free Flight, which lets you fly with any threat of random encounters. Vandal Swarm, where you can go against waves of enemies with 4 of your friends. Capture the Core, which is this game's version of Capture the Flag, and even a racing game. These modes have multiple maps, specially designed to suit the unique gameplay that comes with flying ships, and even includes a neat little feature called G-Force Effects. This simulates pilot blackouts if a substantial amount of G-Force is applied to the body. They plan to add another mode too, that is similar to a Battle Royale experience in space, which honestly sounds like the coolest thing ever. But combat isn't limited only to space. The game is also looking to incorporate ground combat with 2 maps and 2 game types already available. It is your standard run-of-the-mill gunplay multiplayer, but with an option to go 0G. But what if you don't like combat? Well, fortunately, Star Citizen is a lot more than that. Ships and vehicles. For contributing to the project's funding, backers receive virtual rewards in the form of tiered pledge packages. The highlight of these packages is its ships. Star Citizen currently allows you to buy from a catalog of well over 50 ships, ranging right from $25 to $2,000. Now, these ships can be customized in various ways, which has an effect not only cosmetically, but also the stats in your combat. The attention to detail is utterly incredible, with each ship distinguishable solely off of its manufacturing. But what if your ship gets destroyed? Well, there is an insurance system in place, so you are soaring through the galaxy in no time. But what do we have when exploring land? There is a huge list of ground vehicles divided in categories like exploration, combat, military, recon, mining, and racing. Now, each vehicle you get has its own history told through its incredibly detailed models. These vehicles and ships can also be bought at designated in-game kiosks. The game, or the demo, if you will, has genuinely well thought out mechanics to make this world feel alive. Activities and mission types. No game is complete without its own missions and activities. Star Citizen as a game has a generally decent amount of missions to keep you engaged at times. The general mission loops have several ways of achieving the goal, from going guns blazing through the sky to taking a stealthier approach on the ground. These missions usually see you infiltrating underground bunkers to steal something for a contract. There are missions entirely based in space too, which sees you fighting, infiltrating ships, and sometimes even escorting them out of trouble. These missions earn you money, which you can then use for in-game purchases like buying or modding vehicles, trading, etc. The game also offers a cool mechanic with the money trading feature. It allows you to share your earnings with your friends as you enjoy the game. However, the missions often lack the variety in its larger execution. As a result, a lot of the gameplay loop soon becomes repetitive. While this can be chalked up to the game being in its early alpha stage, exploration in this game generally seems to lack a purpose. To substitute for the lack of missions, the game also features other activities to do, like mining. From large-scale mining, requiring huge spaceships and the recently introduced refineries, to on-foot mining for valuable materials in caves, it is one of the most fleshed out career paths in the game right now. So why is it that a game so ambitious and unique at its core, polarizing the community? Well, to understand that, we need to go a couple of years back when the game was just a Kickstarter project in 2012. Roberts claimed that the game may be released by 2014. At the time, Roberts said that we're already 1 year in development. Another 2 years puts us at 3 total, which is ideal. Any more and things would begin to get stale. Considering this was still a time before games like No Man's Sky and Cyberpunk would be released, the sheer scale and premise of a space sci-fi adventure like this was enough to win the audience over. The funding skyrocketed, going on to win the Guinness World Record for the most funded crowdfunding project ever. With this budget, Roberts now had a free creative space with no publishers to enforce any restricted deadlines. As a result of this, the game would often see massive changes and additions to the core experience that only added to the development time. The game would now be delayed again and again, with pieces of the alpha version being released from 2015 to 2017, after which no official release date had been announced yet. The single-player component that was supposed to go into beta development last year has now been removed from the updates calendar. Even with its impressive alpha, the game at its core still feels unfinished. There's no shortage of bugs and glitches that still need to be worked upon. There's still no narrative structure present to tie all of its features together, and the game, with its limited player group, always feels more or less empty. While some people were supportive of the game, understanding its potential and how a rushed game can end up feeling rushed, others started criticizing its near-decade-long development process. Subreddits like Star Citizen _refunds were soon created as a means to appeal for refunds for the now uninterested backers. As time passed without any release date, the hype around the game started to dwindle. While the studio maintains radio silence about the release dates, the game is far from being dead. The team still releases big announcements and updates to its alpha build on a near-daily basis. The alpha, which does have a hard time with bugs due to it being poorly optimized, still puts a beautiful showcase of what's in store for us upon release. With Squadron 42 deep into production and promising alpha footage, all signs point at Star Citizen being released not when, but exactly how Chris Roberts wanted it to.